Hello, everyone. I'm Emily Good. Welcome to the Dearborn Heights City Libraries program. This evening, we have Brittany Hamilton-Reed of Michigan Rehabilitation Services, or MRS. She'll be providing an overview of the state agency, MRS, and the services they provide to individuals with disabilities. Specifically, she will discuss the vocational rehabilitation process, the services offered, and the routes to getting connected to Michigan Rehabilitation Services. Brittany Hamilton-Reed, MA, CRC, is a vocational rehabilitation counselor with Michigan Rehabilitation Services. She's a graduate of Michigan State University's Rehabilitation Counseling Graduate Program, a certified rehabilitation counselor, and is continuously looking for innovative avenues to connect and support individuals with disabilities. Welcome, Brittany.
Thank you. I appreciate you all having me. I am going to share my screen at this time and walk through a presentation for you all. Okay. So as Emily said, I am with Michigan Rehabilitation Services, and I'm just going to provide a brief overview of our agency and some of the things that we do provide. So as you said, my name is Brittany Hamilton-Reed. I am a counselor within the Wayne office, and there are offices throughout the entire state of Michigan. I just happen to work in the Wayne office. Just housekeeping items, be patient with us as, technology, mute your microphones and turn off your camera. If you do have questions, utilize the chat for us and we'll answer them as they come in. And my contact information will be provided at the end of the presentation. So you're welcome to reach out to me via phone or email to have some dialogue or to answer any questions that were not answered through this presentation for you. So I always like to start off with just like common jargon or things that you might hear. I try my best to avoid using acronyms, but sometimes they slip in. So MRS, or Michigan Rehabilitation Services, is the agency that I do work for. VR, or vocational rehabilitation, is the process that we follow, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. PreETS, or Pre-Employment Transition Services, is a specific category or process in services for our youth population. And in the state of Michigan, youth are categorized as age 14 to 26. And then lastly, the term MCTI, or Michigan Career Technical Institute, is a vocational college here in the state of Michigan in Plainwell that I'll talk again a little bit more for some of our youth who might be looking for that as an avenue for employment. So just to start off in the big picture, MRS, or Michigan Rehabilitation Services, our mission is to develop customized workforce solutions for businesses and individuals with disabilities. So while we are very passionate about connecting and supporting folks with individuals, we also support businesses. So we have within our agency the business network, which works exclusively with employers to establish a relationship, but also to kind of provide education, just basic, or not basic, but foundational understanding of like what it means to work with an individual with disabilities and have them in your workplace. And going along with that, with our vision, is to have a diverse and inclusive workforce that unites businesses and individuals with disabilities toward a common good. So very similar, very connected, honing in on that diversity and inclusion aspect, and making sure that folks are in a workplace that look like each other, that have very similar backgrounds or different backgrounds, and creating that diversity that's very much needed in our workplace for folks to thrive and feel like their workplace is something that represents them. Additionally, just a little bit of background, MRS has been serving individuals with disabilities throughout the state for over 50 years. And every year, our agency helps thousands of individuals with disabilities either obtain, maintain, or advance in their employment. And you can imagine that means, a variety of different services and different approaches, but our ultimate goal is to get folks into the employment that is suitable for them and that they'll be able to maintain for whatever time period they're looking to maintain. So getting a little more specific in terms of the services that we provide, as I indicated, we assist individuals in the youth category as well as adult in terms of maintaining, obtaining, or advancing in employment. And that comes with a couple of different service categories, if you will. Every individual that would become a part of our, or be a part of our services or initiate that will go towards or be a part of the vocational counseling and guidance. That is really the foundation of everything we do within our services. It's the relationship that we build with each other. It's the understanding of what your ultimate goal is as a customer with us or a client with us. And it's developing that rapport so then we understand not only what your ultimate goal is, but also what your disability is and the barriers that may create. And then thinking about the accommodations or the different aspects or development that need to be put in place for you to obtain or maintain that employment that you're seeking. A couple of other services are job coaching, which is very specific to whatever your needs are, but thinking about whatever on-the-job type training that you might need and having an individual there that can assist you learning those tasks or reinforcing those tasks so that way you can work towards being independent in those job tasks. Job placement assistance is a kind of a large category, but it's everything that you could imagine around finding employment. So developing your resume, practicing your interviewing skills, doing some soft skills training. So you're developing your interpersonal skills and what it means to develop work relationships with folks. And then even, looking for jobs, job leads, filling out applications, and then that entire process and following along even after you found that employment, that's all a part of job placement assistance. The job training and accommodation, very similar to what I've indicated earlier. Maybe there's a training program or certificate program that that's required for the employment that you desire, or there's specific accommodations that you may need. As an example, one that can be I don't want to say simple, but one that you can often see in certain workplaces is, say you're a cashier and you can't stand for long periods of time. An accommodation could be a stool while you're at the register to maintain that employment and to do your job effectively. Just having a stool to assist you in doing that essential task of the job. So that's a job accommodation. Assistive technology. You could think of those items as some of our individuals who are sight impaired or vision impaired, and they may have speech to text, technology. That way they can use a computer and maybe type something if they're doing clerical work. Or even if you're in a training school program and you need to utilize a computer, but you have to speak those items out and that text will then appear onto the screen. That's a form of assistive technology. There's a variety of different assistive tech that can be used, but that's something that we can support individuals with. Support services, examples there, interpreters or readers. Oftentimes an individual who is hearing impaired will have interpreters in a presentation or go into a job interview with them so they can be successful in that space. And then lastly, restorative services, thinking more about our hearing aids, those folks who are hearing impaired and may need a hearing aid to maintain their employment, right? Maybe they've lost their hearing over time or something along those lines, but they need that tech to be able to be successful and ensure that their job is not in jeopardy or their safety. The same for eyeglasses, thinking, if you can't necessarily see an item and that's impairing or creating a barrier within your employment, that's something we can support moving forward and maintaining that employment. So just a couple of examples Again, these are large categories of services that we provide, but there's a lot of kind of the nitty gritty that it breaks down, and it's all based off of what you would need. It's very individualized. It's not cookie cutter. It's not like, well, we're going to throw everything at you and hopefully this will stick. We're talking about these pieces and making sure that whatever service is needed is specific for you. So another piece that I've touched on a little bit specifically for our youth or the folks who are looking for like educational or vocational training, we partner with local school districts. So thinking of our like middle school and high school folks who are, you know, that trajectory to college or to whatever they're doing after college. Connecting with them and making sure that they are aware of our services and doing different developmental pieces around that. We also have our school, the Michigan Career and Technical Institute, which is vocationally focused, but that's another aspect or opportunity for our youth. And then colleges and universities supporting individuals who are looking to obtain, you know, an associate's or a bachelor's or a master's degree in a particular area, because that's, you know, that'll help them get into the vocation or the occupation that they're seeking. That's another area that we can support individuals with. And we work with folks while they're still in high school, as well as they're transitioning out of high school. That again would look at, would fall under the category of our pre-employment transition services or PreEPS. And I'll get to that in just a little bit. So to kind of break down a little bit more about our overall process, we have 6 steps. So the 6 steps to vocational rehabilitation. Step 1 is our application. That's the foundation of learning some demographic information about you, what your employment goal is, a little bit about what your disability is. And that's you indicating that I want to start into this process, or I'm interested in moving forward in our overall process. So completing the application is step 1. Step 2 would be gathering information for us to make you eligible within our processes. And what that means is that because our services are very specific and it's required, there's the piece of having a disability. And so collecting that documentation, whether it be like a psych evaluation or for some of our youth having an IEP, and it outlines the specific disability, but also just some more concrete information about what barriers are in place because of that disability that you may have. And that provides a lot of background information for us. Again, that information gathering, but also makes you eligible at the same time. I also like to note that in terms of eligibility, individuals who are receiving SSI or SSDI, that is another eligibility criteria. If you are on either of those aids, you are considered eligible, and you can move forward in the process that way as well. After determining eligibility and gathering a lot more information about the trajectory or where you're looking to go, we develop a plan, right? So we've had a conversation, we understand what your disability is, we've talked about what you're seeking or what you need to get to that ultimate goal. And so now we're going to plan that out. We're going to talk about the specific services that you need, that I talked about a moment ago in terms of, I need counseling and guidance, and I'm looking for job placement assistance. Maybe I need some restoration services because I need reading glasses or things along those lines. Again, it's individualized. So whatever your situation is, that's what the plan is going to look like, and that's what the services are going to be. And so following the development of a plan, we're going to play those things out. We're going to make sure that you're getting your resume updated or getting the hearing aids or the glasses that you require. Whatever those services are, we're going to implement those. And that might take a little time depending on the type of service it is. But that's the next step in the process, is in terms of putting that plan into action. Following the services at that point, it's then employment or searching for a job. job leads, which is typically a part of a service, but the sixth step is employment. And that's not necessarily where we end. So just because you follow the plan, you do the various services that are within the plan, and you find a job, that's great. We're ecstatic. That's everything that we've been working towards. But before we just kind of like move on, or like that's the end of it, we ensure that once you are within an employment that you find that is suitable for you or that fits what you were looking for, we follow along for 90 days. We don't want folks to get into a job and it looks all shiny and great in the beginning, but then maybe issues pop up down the line. And so anytime we have someone who successfully finds employment, we're going to follow along for those 90 days and check in, make sure that you're feeling supported, making sure that your accommodations are being met, or you're feeling that it's a good fit for you to maintain for whatever long period of time. And so during those 90 days, we check in every once in a while and just make sure things are, not exactly, but how you feel they need to be for you to maintain that employment without us. And then following those 90 days, that's when we'll talk about case closure. And that's fairly basic in terms of like your goal was met. These are services that were kind of implemented. And at this time, we're closing your case. And that's the relationship or the process is quote unquote done. And that's not to say that you cannot come back to us for, down the line, years later, or even short periods after your case has been closed. You can always come back and we can talk about maybe what the concern is or what barriers or resources you might need. So that's a little bit of a synopsis of our 6-step process. It does, take a little bit of time depending on what your goal is and what services that you are looking for. But again, it's meant to set you up for the most success possible. Another piece that I always want to talk about throughout this entire process is the concept of informed choice. And that is throughout the entire process. And it's super important, especially when we're talking about developing a plan, is making sure that you have all the information you need to ensure that you are making an educated or informed choice about a good job match, about working with maybe a particular vendor who's doing a specific service that's in your plan, or determining your eligibility and seeking information from a specific physician or whoever can speak to your particular disability. Whatever it is or wherever it is within the process, we ensure that you have informed choice and your rights are being protected, and you have your rights and responsibilities in the process. And again, it's not us just throwing something onto you or implementing these things because we know best. We are working in tandem with you. We are simply a guide and you are in the driver's seat. And so that's something that you'll hear a lot about throughout the process and through this presentation, but informed choice is high on our priority list. So to talk a little bit more about the eligibility criterion, so I talked a little bit about documentation. So when we talk about eligibility, we're talking about an existing documented physical and or mental impairment. Oftentimes when folks think of disability, they think of those visible disabilities. So someone who uses a wheelchair or someone who has a hearing aid, various items like that, where it's something that you can physically see, but that's not always the case. So disability is something that's going to impair or create a barrier of some kind. So thinking about maybe someone who has diabetes and, thinking about the medication that they have to take and how that might impact their energy levels and not being able to work early in the morning, and that could be a job accommodation. So as an example, so when we think of disability or impairments, it's something that one is documented, but also it's creating a barrier of some kind for that individual, specifically a work or vocational related barrier. Additionally, it requires our assistance because sometimes that, folks will have a disability and may not always warrant our assistance. And so that's a part of the eligibility criterion. And then lastly, making sure that you can benefit from our services that lead to employment. And we also understand that sometimes folks do have disabilities or impairments that are to a severe nature where sometimes our services are not helpful. We are always in the business of providing resources and pointing folks in the right direction to get the assistance that they need, understanding that sometimes that assistance is not us. And again, so informed choice, we will make it many important choices while seeking your vocational service goal. And we want to make sure that you are educated and informed. Again, putting you in the driver's seat, making sure you have all the information that you need that's necessary to move throughout the process. And you feel that you are making the choices that fit best. As a counselor in the process, we will always, provide our input and our background knowledge, and making sure that folks understand, like, yes, we've done this work, but you are the one that are going to be living it out, right? You're the one that's going to be doing the work to get to that goal. And so we want to make sure, again, that you're educated and well informed as you're moving and navigating the system. And we provide the guidance, we provide whatever assistance and information to make sure that you feel comfortable with that. Along with the informed choice, we thinking about it from the aspect of working with youth. If you are 18 or older, it looks a little bit different, but if you're 18 and younger or under 18, or have a legal guardian, so someone who is your legal guardian, they are a part of that process. I'll get into it a little bit more when I talk about the PreEmployment services, but just understanding that your guardian, your parent, whoever that individual is, they'll also be a part of that process and have informed choice and be educated about the process along the way, and making sure that they feel well informed and that they're allowed choices throughout the process. So looking at our pre-employment transitional services, again, which are for the ages 14 to 26, typically students in secondary or post-secondary education programs. The services are typically geared more in a developmental kind of aspect. So if you look at the bullets on the screen, we see job exploration or a work readiness, self-advocacy. These are all things to help these individuals develop into the adults they will become, right? They're young adults now. They haven't necessarily maybe navigated a workplace or certain long-term employment. And so there's skills that may not necessarily be there. So the goal around these services is to provide that development and kind of help folks start off on a good footing, whether it be in an employment setting or in an educational program. So take work-based learning experiences as an example. During the summer, we typically have a number of experiences for students, high school students to take part in, so that way they're developing their employment skills or their work skills. They may have components of like counseling or exploration that goes along with it. So it's like you're doing a job, but also you're learning and developing at the same time. Or even prior, you may have done like a soft skills training. So you're learning about communication and interpersonal skills, and then you're going to apply that information while you're doing the work-based learning experience. Again, it's to connect those dots and provide that foundational understanding as they're navigating or moving towards, independence in the workforce and school and in those different pieces, because oftentimes we see our youth aren't provided those opportunities, especially now with COVID and the lack of interaction with folks, or the virtual nature of interacting with folks, and that sometimes creates deficits. And so making sure that we're setting up our youth for success in whatever setting that they're moving towards. And again, as indicated at the bottom of the screen, legal guardians are engaged in this process as well. making sure that they have informed choice, but also they're understanding the categories and services that would be a part of their specific student's plan. So to overview, employment assistance, or what MRS ultimately does is provide employment assistance for people with disabilities, whether you are adults or young adults, 14 to 26 or older. We do have a 6-step process, and within that process, the two highlights is the eligibility criterion, so understanding the documentation that's needed, or understanding that there is an impairment or barrier that exists within an employment setting, and we do have to document that. And then informed choice, just understanding that you do have choice throughout this entire process, and your voice is valuable within this process as well. And then focused assistance for youth 14 to 26, as well as the legal guardian engagement, depending again on the age, and if that individual, if you do have a legal guardian. So as I said, this is my my contact information. I am in the Wayne office, so you all can reach out to me if you are in the Wayne County, so like Wayne, Westland, Canton area. And I'm gonna show you actually just a nifty tool that we recommend folks use. But as I said, my name is Brittany. My email and phone number are on the screen, and will be provided, or will be alongside this recording that will be placed on the website for the library. But what I like to show folks is the locator map. So within our main Michigan, or excuse me, MRS website, we have an MRS office locator map. And it's pretty interactive. It's really nifty. So as I indicated, I'm in the Wayne office. So if you clicked here in Wayne, if you just click on the service area, it'll pull up the different offices that are within that respective area. So as you'll see that Livonia, Monroe, Taylor are a part of the Wayne district office. And then there's the Detroit Renaissance district office, and you'll see the servicing zip codes. So for me, this is what the service areas that I would cover. But this map is very helpful because if you are not in my respective area, you can click on wherever it is that you are. So if you're up north, if you're, down in Monroe, you can just click on that respective area or county, and it'll pull up the office or offices that you can contact, as well as a phone number, the email for the site managers or manager, and you can get in contact that way to ask questions or to get an application, whatever that may be. So that's just a really nifty tool that I like to show folks, and we'll make sure that it is accessible via the website as well, so you all can find that information readily. But yeah, and then our main website is michigan.gov/MRS, and that'll just take you to our main page where you can just find out a variety of information about MRS, Michigan Rehabilitation Services, and find the locator map, find the application online as well. So yeah, that is our website. That is my time. As I said, I'll go back actually to my contact information. I welcome folks reaching out to me. You can reach me via email or phone. Feel free to text that phone number as well. And I can follow up and provide resources to you, answering questions that you might have, or assist with finding the correct office if you're having issues or problems with that aspect of it as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with us, Brittany.
Yeah, no problem.
And for your informative presentation. If you'd like to watch this presentation again or share it with someone that you know, it will be posted, as she said, to our YouTube channel along with all of our other content there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.